Since my early teens, I've always had this fascination with living a primitive sort of lifestyle. Hiking up into the woods after school, making bonfires and staying there until it was pitch black. I was in love with being out there in the elements, living in this small bubble of wilderness, even if it was only for 4 or 5 hours at a time. In recent years, I've been interested as to why this might be, and why I'm also not alone in this mindset. The urge to just run away, live off grid, with your only worry being how you're going to get through the night comfortably. As I've grown a little bit older, the feeling that surrounds this whole idea still remains deeply rooted in me. But why? If we start off on the philosophical side, we begin to realise that this lust for living day to day, spontaneously moving from here to there, is no new idea. The mysterious character of the Knight-Errant goes all the way back to the late 12th century, existing in Roman literature but also finding its way through to medieval Europe. Even nowadays, we still see this character of the Knight-Errant being displayed in things like Hollywood movies, Netflix shows, video games.
Leave the boy alone.
Maybe the gunslinging cowboy roaming the Wild West in search of purpose, or the samurai living a life of peace and tranquility. The foundation remains the same. Let's focus on medieval Europe. A knight-errant, also known as a lordless knight, was a man who had all the characteristics of a strong and chivalrous knight. The only thing that separated them from your standard knight during this time period was the fact that he was free from the grasp of the king, dictating his every move and action. The knight-errant lived his own life, wandering the land in search of adventures, diving headfirst into the unknown, breaking away from the standard average life that others around him were faced with. His main goals in life were to test himself and live a life that usually consisted of idealistic values. The reason I bring this medieval character to attention is because I feel like it fits quite well into the philosophy and mindset of today's runaways. These knight-errants were like the digital nomads of the ancient world, and for some people today, it's like staring into a mirror, looking into this relatable yet so culturally different piece of themselves. It just reflects right back into our own faces. It's like an ingrained way of life burned into our souls through our history, roaming the land, particularly in search of evil to conquer, whilst usually holding a strong stoic mindset to their identity, being insensitive and cold towards the idea of having to be alone, fighting not only against the world but also against themselves, made to deal with whatever personal impurities he had all by himself. Obviously, digital nomads of today aren't exactly living in the exact same headspace as the knight-errants of medieval Europe. Runaways now aren't exactly out here slaying dragons or saving princesses. It's the reasons for the urge to run away that reflect against the knight-errant. To seek adventure and excitement in a mediocre world, keeping themselves on edge, fighting through an uncertain lifestyle of moving from here to there, and loving the process. This is where we relate entirely. Same mindset, different times. But you see, the escapism theory kind of links pretty well into the whole knight-errant idea, but the escapism theory is a little bit darker, only because escapism is already a pretty sad place to find your mind, as it mostly consists of pretty dark causes and ways to escape. Some feel put down by life's difficulties or just the regular repetitiveness of life. That's why escape can feel concrete, to quiet the mind from all the external and internal pressures. Drugs, sex, video games, constant stimulation. But fortunately, escapism sometimes isn't this drastic. sometimes it can be a little bit more literal. Some live to physically escape, leaving it all behind and escape whatever miseries you might currently be faced with, packing your bags and leaving for life.
It was good to be back in the wilderness again, where everything seems at peace. I was alone, just me and the animals. It was a great feeling, free once more to plan and do as I pleased. Beyond was all around me. My dream was a dream no longer. I suppose I was here because this was something I had to do. Not just dream about it, but do it.
Dick Proenneke, a man that encapsulates this whole idea perfectly. The self-educated naturalist, writer and wildlife photographer took the leap of faith in the late spring of 1968. At 51 years of age, he decided to leave his home and live almost 100% isolated from the outside world, staying in a log cabin he built entirely by hand in Twin Lakes, Alaska. He stayed here till his death 30 years later. Proenneke hunted, fished, grew and gathered a lot of his own food, and at times occasionally had supplies flown in. Whilst living here, he also documented his activities in journals and on film, and was also being a great help to scientists by recording valuable meteorological data. He lived any runaway's dream, ditching his society-made life and creating his own. He talked about being at peace with nature whilst simultaneously struggling to get by. A beautiful contrast that just seems to work. This is where real fulfillment and meaning in life can lie for people, rejecting the new age lifestyle of the digital revolution and embracing the roots of human nature, being one with the land. This is where primitivism as a social movement comes in. Primitivism refers to the belief that simpler or earlier stages of human development were morally and intellectually superior. It often romanticizes pre-modern societies and their perceived harmony with nature, often seeing the golden age as a myth, believing it to actually be quite the opposite. And in my opinion, there definitely is some truth behind this. When looking at the Hadza tribe of Africa, the Korowai tribe of Indonesia, we see a way of life that is lost to the rest of the world. A lifestyle that goes way beyond the bounds of just minimalism. We see complete and utter happiness with the smallest of things. Food around a campfire or just waking up on a pile of leaves with your heart still beating is enough to get that blast of dopamine each and every single day. And in reality, I think this is what we all strive for, to be content with the little things. I personally don't believe that anyone who's truly honest wouldn't want to live a life where happiness comes as easy as that. It's this spontaneous struggle of life that people yearn for. Their subconscious mind is just constantly screaming at them to just run away. We've seen this huge jump in off-grid living search terms, or the massive explosion of bush camp and just digital nomad YouTubers. As humanity progresses, the more people seem to be going the opposite way. Well, at least in recent times, going back to our roots, finding purpose within the process of surviving. Wake up, get warm, find food, aim to thrive. With each little action given us just the right amount of dopamine to keep us feeling that little sense of fulfillment. No fancy cars, expensive holidays, loud raves. This is what primitivism teaches. It's not about the connection to the man-made, unnatural aspects of life. It's about our primal connection to the world. That's where the true enlightenment lies. Even if you don't 100% agree with that premise in particular. It's a fair assumption to make about why so many people seek out this lifestyle over just the average life of your everyday man or woman. We're longing for it.